life, what I had been going through up to the time that I started. Having so many medical issues, 50 years of progressing autoimmune issues that had finally impacted my brain, and sharing that I had made myself DNR. And I did do a lot of vlogging last year, but I just was not up to keeping it up. Between so much going on, not just here at the farm with the rescues and my husband, but also the world, I, like a lot of people, had a lot of difficulty processing. But I'm about to start a new chapter. And again, this is the reason that I had started in the beginning, was to help the many, many, many people all over the world that had suffered like me, going from doctor to doctor to doctor, looking for answers, getting nowhere, to the point where I received my diagnosis of having it finally impacted my brain with chronic strokes, autonomic nervous system disorder, small-fiber-neuropathies, dysautonomia. And after came later, I had shared that I had fallen many times, almost daily. One of my last diagnoses was optic-nerve-neuropathy, or atrophy. My optic nerves are shrinking, and I could go blind at any time, which isn't something that I'm looking forward to. But there's so much else that has happened. And I don't want to repeat a lot, because I did do well over 20 vlogs that told the whole story. But today is more about wrapping up and beginning a new chapter. So, the last time I vlogged, I think I was in the hospital with a collapsed lung. And this is some time after I had made myself DNR, and I had been referred by my eye doctor, who is Nicole Albright, and she works with Moses Eye Clinics. There's several offices in the Midwest. And up to now, I have dedicated all of my journey to the smart patient, who is a wealth of information. And I can't stress enough how awesome it is to listen or read about the tests people are having, their symptoms, what they're going through. Does anybody else out there relate to this? Do you also have this or feel this way? And I wanted to share, because I did have so many diagnoses, and I was familiar with so many symptoms and gone from doctor to doctor, no answers, but I felt that if I could make a difference in anybody's life, it would be worth it to have the information sooner. And you may remember in my vlogging, and this is so very relevant and important, I talk about having a gene mutation called MTHFR. And there are many variations, and I've known about this for approximately 10 years. So for the last 10 years, I have been researching, printing out all kind of information from all over the world. I was actually interviewed by, I want to say, a hospital in Canada about one of my diseases and the symptoms and what I would want doctors to know or what would be helpful to patients. And one of the things I've stressed over and over and over again, not just vlogging, but to every doctor that I have seen, and there have been dozens in the last 10 years, that I have this gene mutation, and although there's many variations, I go on to tell them that the variation that I have prohibits the body from absorbing B vitamins, and therefore you cannot make folate. And if you research the symptoms of vitamin B deficiency, very, very, very many of them will mimic every autoimmune disease out there. So this year, DNR in place. Again, last time I vlogged, I had a collapsed lung. So I went in for a outpatient procedure in May that I get 3 or 4 times a year to help manage my symptoms. And my doctor shared with me right before I went in that she did not expect any complications. However, she did have my DNR. I woke up in recovery and told I was being admitted under cardiology to have a pacemaker defibrillator implanted because I was in complete heart block. And here's the papers and sign. And another issue to do with all of this is the fact that whenever I would go to the hospital for these procedures, my husband would be able to be with me all the time, except for the time when I was in anesthesia and the operating room. And he'd be right there in recovery when I woke up, and we'd go on our merry way. So he knew exactly, I've had this done many, many times, exactly how long it takes. But because of the pandemic, he was not allowed to accompany me into the hospital. So I was in there by myself, and I'm going to cardiology, and I asked, has anyone called my husband? And nobody had. And when they finally did, he said, well, what do you mean she's going to cardiology? And they're trying to explain about the complete heart block. And he said, did she agree to this? And they said, yes, she signed the papers. So eventually I get home and I go into a very deep depression as my mind unfogged from 2 anesthesias in one day. I actually had not understood what had happened. Like, why was I woke up in recovery and given this information and told to sign these papers? Because all the surgeries that I've had, and I've lost count, I am told the exact same thing, which is never make a life decision within 24 hours of anesthesia. And I guess it's hard to explain that if I had had time to think about it, I'm probably pretty sure I would have made another decision and possibly wouldn't be sitting here. But it was more or less taken out of my hands, and I'm sitting here now rather grateful. So I'm going through my depression, and I've mentioned many times that a lot of my diagnoses were because of my eye doctors. They were the first ones to diagnose me with Sjögren's. And after seeing the first neurologist, which diagnosed me with at least 4 brain issues, and told me that they no longer could do anything for me, and if I wanted to pursue anything, go to Cleveland or Mayo. And I told my eye doctor I had made myself DNR, and there's so many doctors out there that have applauded me because I more or less had stopped chasing the cure and given in to whatever is going to happen is going to happen. But Dr. Albright asked me if I would go get a second opinion. And I said, well, I'm not sure, what do you mean? And she said she had referred several people to the Neurological Institute in Maryville, which was right up the street from her, and I did not even know this existed. So I said, of course, because one of the big reasons I didn't want to go to Cleveland or Mayo is because we couldn't really leave the farm. We have a farm that was created for a dog hospice, and we had at least, I believe at the time, we had maybe 21 abused, handicapped, and senior dogs here with us. And you just can't pick up and go. They're handicapped like me. They depend on me and my husband. So I told Nicole Albright, yes, I will do this. And I went to the Neurological Institute, and my first visit was with a doctor who was kind of the all-encompassing head of the institute, and going over everything. And he was actually trained at Cleveland, and he referred me to 2 other doctors, and one was for my balance and strokes and heart, and the other one was strictly for vision. And when I went to see the doctor for my eyes, the vision neurologist, I had several MRIs, and he ordered a specific one to see my optic nerve, and this is when he discovered that my optic nerve was atrophying, and he sent me back to Moses Eye Care, but to Dr. Johnson. And he told me that Dr. Johnson was a doctor who retrains your brain to see. And as I'm sitting here, I am a huge storm has just come up, and I'm sitting in my gazebo. So I don't know how long I am going to be able to keep going in this weather. But anyway, so I went to see Dr. Johnson, and she did all her examinations. Feels kind of good. And then she went on and asked me to go see another doctor, which is so common. Every doctor I go to refers me to somebody else. So she sent me to infection